Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you guys that do not know him yet, this is James. James does all of the production. You can't see him now.
Can't see me right now.
James does all of the production on every song, literally every song I've ever released. We kind of work together on all of the songs, and James is something of a production master, so to speak. And we thought it'd be really cool to kind of do a deep dive on a track of mine to show you kind of how we go around building it once we've got a song idea in place. And we thought it would be really fun to do it with Misfits, because I don't know about you, but Misfits is like my favourite song we've done. It's my favourite song we've ever done. And it was probably the quickest one we've ever written and finished in a small time frame as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought it would be really fun to kind of revisit it, and also to just remind ourselves of the little kind of trinkets that we left throughout the song, throughout the track, that we may have like forgotten about.
There's a lot of things
all
in
the
it.
Subliminal messages.
So anyone who's not familiar with production, and if you have any questions, just ask me as we go along. If I get too technical, Emma, you need to stop me.
Okay, I'll bring you in.
So we'll talk through what we have in the track and break it down, and you can see. So on the screen right now, you can obviously see this is the software we use called Pro Tools, which is what I use for all my production. So it doesn't matter what you use software-wise, but they all do the same thing really. But I've just used Pro Tools for too long.
Studio One's supposed to be good.
Yeah,
well.
Ableton and all those things, they all do the same thing. They all get you to the same result at the end of the day. It's just what you're used to. So, I use Pro Tools, so that's my software I use. So I'll be obviously seeing all that. You'll be able to see it all, how we break it down. So this is the mix session. So this is pre-master. Mm-hmm. So when we do a song, Emma writes a song, whether that's acoustic guitar or however it is, and then we come in the studio and we do the production, and the production can be everything from the chords behind the song to the sounds and everything. So with Misfits, I think we went through 5 different versions.
Yeah, at least 5 different
styles
versions.
and genres and things before we settled with this.
When you say genre, I guess it was more to do with like the tone of it. Like we had like some different chords, mostly like with the chord progressions and stuff. And we had like 5 different tracks essentially, that they were all Misfits, but they had like, they kind of evoked different moods. And like the one we ended up with was the one that just kind of felt more natural.
I just really wanted that reggae vibe.
Yeah.
You were like...
I think I remember saying to you guys back when I was just about to release it, that it was like heavily inspired by like No Doubt, because you guys know how much I love No Doubt. And yeah, like we really wanted a kind of summery reggae feel. And that's what this version of the song kind of came through with, I guess.
Should we have a listen through first for people who don't know?
Yeah.
And obviously everyone would... Yeah, we'll see how we get on for time, but I could
Thank you
open
for the follow, by the way. Appreciate
some of the
it.
older versions of Misfits that you would never have heard. They'll be extremely basic and not finished. And a lot of the time what I like to do, Emma hates it, but I like to write the melody out on a keyboard. And I try and get the worst sound possible for that. So, my reasoning behind it is that if we can make it sound good with just a keyboard playing the vocal line, then when you put an actual vocal on, it'd be even better.
It's the same concept of, if you have a catchy melody or a catchy chorus, if you sit down and just play it, just you and an acoustic guitar, and it's catchy and it feels good, then you've got a good you've got a good melody. If it's I guess like what we always aim for, what I always aim for, like with the melody, the vocal melody, is to be as catchy as possible. So if you can sit down with an acoustic guitar, sing it, and it still be in your head the next day or a week from then you've got a good melody. That's the kind of rule I live by anyway.
Should we have a quick listen for anyone who doesn't know it? So.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it's not the start. Here's the start.
Forget how much I love this song.
Yeah.
Dead eyes, street lights,
like we made a mistake.
Checking it's
They
working.
drive, we fight, while the radio plays. I kinda love it when you get so mad. You're kinda funny when you yell like that. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. I guess we'll always be the misfits. I guess we'll always be the misfits, yeah. Messed up, anxious, and you don't understand me. I don't hear much when you keep yelling at me like I kinda love it when you get so mad. You're kinda funny when you yell like that. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. Yeah, the way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. Yeah, the way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. I guess we'll always be the misfits. I guess we'll always be the misfits, yeah. This is not a love song. We don't even get the words wrong. This is not a love song. We're in it for the long run. This is not a love song. We don't even get the words wrong. This is not a love song. We're in it for the long run. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. I guess we'll always be the misfits. I guess we'll always be the misfits, yeah. There you go. So for those of you guys that haven't heard it, that's Misfits. And for those of you guys just tuning in, what's going on? We're doing something a little bit different today. We're talking you through the production of a track I released last year called Misfits. And that was it. But we wanted to kind of do more of a deep dive and show you like what we do with the vocals, what we do with the kind of arrangement in general.
There'll be a lot of things that you won't even realise are in there.
Yeah.
So you will have heard the song a lot.
Yeah, but,
and
like
you-
hearing the song, like hearing different arrangement, different instruments throughout the track on their own, just completely soloed, is sometimes like really really cool. It kind of takes you out of it a bit. So yeah, we thought it would be interesting for you guys to have a listen.
Okay, give me 2 moments. I'm fully with you, Emma.
No problem. No
Just
problem.
need to fix this quick.
So good, so good. So we've got a couple of cameras set up in the studio. So the
Oh,
one
that-
behind
It's
us.
just dropped, but yeah, there we go.
Hey, how you doing? It might be a little bit out of sync, I don't know, but look how messy our studio is.
Our studio's so messy right now.
It's so messy right now. And also it's like that webcam runs on Wi-Fi, so it's probably not...
It does drop.
It like drops out every now and again, but as long as you guys can see us now.
Yeah. And then his preference. Right, I'll let you be in control of cameras, Emma.
Okay. I'll put it
Okay.
here.
So I guess we'll just... I don't know how to start it.
I'm gonna
do you want to do?
just so I don't get like a dead knee, I'm gonna
Move
put
this pug.
Princess Puggy into a position where she might feel comfortable.
You want to stick her on a chair? Oh, you're going to hold her?
No.
So Roxy sits in the studio with us all the time. She wants to sit on your lap while you're trying to work.
Can you sit back here?
She'll sit at the back of the studio.
If I put her back here...
She'll come straight over.
Can you sit there? You chill there?
As you can see, we have a nice big studio.
She'll just run straight into her bed.
Where is her bed?
Where's
the bed?
Oh, I don't know.
It's behind there, isn't it? You want to grab it and put it down for her? Okay, so, I guess we'll kind of talk you through some things. Some of you might not have ever used, Pro Tools or have any familiar with audio software. So I'll talk you through some of the very basics. So we use things called plugins to help the sound and process it. So I'll play you like the original, and I'll play you what the final version is after we've done all the... she's good.
She can smell food in the studio. That's why she's having a wander around.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think we said that what a lot of what we did was when we write the production for the song. Emma already has a song written on acoustic guitar, and our kind of rule is that if you can't play it on acoustic and vocal, then the song isn't good enough.
When you say you can't, it's like if you play it on acoustic and vocal and it's just not hitting in terms of being a catchy melody that's fluid that other people can sing along to, then it's kind of I don't know, it's less fun for me to sing, and probably less fun for other people to hear it. That's my kind of philosophy on it anyway.
Yeah.
So we always strive for as catchy a melody as possible, even if it's repetitive in some places, as long as it's upbeat, addictive, fun, pop. Just shamelessly pop in your face.
Yeah, totally.
That's what we aim for.
So I think the thing that started us off with the track, so what we do is we use, we either jam out on the instruments we have here in the studio, or we use some sample libraries. So I have a load of sample libraries, and sample libraries are bits of audio that people have recorded, and they can be everything from a piece of piano to a snare drum or whatever it is. And then we kind of just mash them together to start with to kind of get a vibe. Yeah. So what we really liked was this. So we had this kind of dissonant sound, which is what we created, but the original actually sounded like this. This is all the plugins off. So that is a sample that we used, which is totally different. You can hear we chopped the bass end out first. So,
you can definitely hear that sample in a...
So if I take... Oh, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, you can hear it in a
hip-hop
track.
Yeah.
Hi, baby Anna, by the way. How you doing?
So you can see we chopped the bass end out. So this kind of line here on the screen, you can't see where I'm pointing, but this line is where the frequency's chopped. So when we click that in, you can hear all that being taken out. And then what we tried to do is make it so that the second half of the chorus, it goes up the octave, so it's kind of higher frequency. So if I now add all the plugins back on, this is the final sound we ended up with, which is what you're probably very familiar with, and that was the original.
Just to filter out all the crap in the bass end that we didn't know.
Yeah. So the problem with samples is, samples are great to use, but if you just take a sample and reuse it exactly as that sample, you can have copyright issues.
And also, it kind of pulls away from the creativity of making it your own as well. So whenever we use a sample in a track, we chop it and change it and filter it and do
whatever it is
to make it work with what we've got. And also kind of to make it our own. It's good to it's a good kind of base point if you have a sample in mind, to use that as a kind of as inspiration, I guess. And then from there you do your own thing with it, and kind of move from that, I guess.
Yeah. This is the other thing we really liked, which is the guitar.
Yeah.
So this kind of which we kind of, if I play the original, you can see what it was when we first got it, and then once we added all our effects, what I think we really liked was those two sounds together were
That's really cool.
That was the thing that when we found those two and we put them together, we were
it kind of reminds me of, as weird and creepy as it sounds, it reminds me of like a spinny, like a wind up like toy
Yeah.
box or like some kind of like little ballerina in a music box or something.
It's
like
kind of like very dissonant, but still very poppy. So the guitar keeps it poppy, but with the two sounds together. And if
kind of gets like a little bit of a dark vibe. It's the sample that does that.
If I take the vocals out a moment, and we just play everything else with that. You can really hear those two working together. So what we tried to do at the start of the very start of the song is just that on its own. So, and then that doesn't come back into the chorus. So as a listener, subconsciously, you already know that.
So that's another rule we always kind of use when, I mean, I say a rule, it's a very loose rule, but what we like to do is we like to have like a melody, whether it's a whistle, a vocal thing, or whether it's a sample like that, that's introduced in the very beginning, and then when the chorus kicks in later on, or when there's like a bit of a hook after the chorus, reintroduce that melody, and because they've heard it in the intro, it's almost like they already know it. They already know the melody. So
when
it's like, I feel like it's an easy way to teach the listener the melody or the hook of a song as early as possible. And like another thing we try and do is like, because it's pop, like just try and get like the listener engaged in the first 10 seconds. That's not the same with every genre, but because it's pop and because a lot of the songs are usually like 3 minutes 30 to 4 minutes, first 10 seconds are vital. So we're like, we want to cram in the hook there, so like they know it from the very beginning, from the get-go. What's going on, Aboders? How you doing? Good to see you.
Let's have a look at what happens. So you can see on the screen what I'm doing here. We obviously have our vocal here, but we start with this kind of cool drum fill, and the guitar.
It's all filtered and stuff.
Yeah, the way to think about it from a production point of view, for especially for pop, is you have left, centre, right, and then you have treble, middle, bass. And so when your chorus comes in, like a cross. When your chorus comes in, you want to be hitting everything. You want it to be really wide, as in left and right, but also you want to have full spectrum. So you want something in the bass end, the high frequency in the mids. But then in your verse,
but not all at the same time all the time. Like you got to think dynamically how the track moves as well, like how you're going to fill that space. So obviously, chorus. Typically, maybe you'd want to fill that space more than any other section of the song. Typically, but like sometimes we do our choruses where in "Love You to Death," for example, the chorus like starts out very simple. There's like minimal instruments in the beginning, and then it kicks in when it's like "You're my ride or die," and that's when everything opens out and there's more instruments introduced. But yeah.
Okay. So if you look at this section. Obviously, this is just all mid-range. And then the vocal comes in, it's still just mid-range. All the drums are mid-range, there's no bass yet. And then into the next section, this is where we introduce the bass end. So when we get to this section, obviously we have a bass guitar.
You've got a synth bass on top of that as well?
Not in this section. Oh. That's in the chorus. So we actually have like a real bass guitar there that's played in. Because you really wanted that No Doubt band vibe. And so I wanted we needed a real bass.
Needed an element of that in there. Bonamo, what's up? Thank you so much for the host. How you doing, by the way?
And also, it transitions into sections. You'll hear we have like a crash.
Yeah.
When you listen to a section and you want that impact.
Yeah. We have a really cool sample, before, when that cymbal kicks in as well.
Which one? Oh, yeah. So one of the kind of end parts of the track, once we've got everything, is to add the background samples, which are the best bits. So we have things like this, which on their own you wouldn't know they're in there.
I think I love it because it sounds very
Sounds very Game.
Very Game Boy.
Yeah. So if I play this sample again, and now listen to where it comes in.
Big deal plays. Just filters nicely.
Yeah.
It's just a different element introduced, so it perks the listeners, like, gets their attention again. Like, studio tour. We're not necessarily given a studio tour today, but we can kind of give a studio tour as well, I guess. We got the cameras to do it, but today we're, for those of you guys that are just tuning in, we're doing a little bit of a behind the scenes look at the production of a track I released last year called Misfits, because we're both passionate about writing pop music, and we wanted to share with you one of my favourite songs to perform with you guys on stream usually, and that's Misfits. So we're just talking through what we included in the song, how James produced it, what we did with the vocal, and all the different instruments that you hear throughout the track, and kind of playing them to you one by one so you can get a sense of what's involved in it, I guess.
So the next thing I was going to show is the whistle, which a lot of people... So when Emma wrote that whistle part for the song, we didn't know what sound we're going to use originally.
Yeah, I think we sat there and we tried
things.
loads of different like lead synths, and we tried like a marimba, and we were like, weren't feeling it. And then I don't know whether it was you were just walking around the studio whistling it, but you ended up going next door and whistling it, and we were like, that's it.
And the thing about using something like a whistle, or you hear in a lot of pop songs, people are like, yeah, oh, and they'll use like, yeah, as a melody. They'll sing but they don't have a lyric. Yeah, and it's so that the listener doesn't need to remember the words, and it's something that everybody can do. So when we're writing a song, we will sometimes pitch the whole song, shift the key. So live, when Emma plays it on acoustic guitar, it'll be in one key, but on the production, it'll be in another key, and that key will be suited to the general audience and how they can whistle. So you'll find like this whistle...
It was definitely the case for this song.
Was the
because
case.
Of the whistle.
So this whistle is pitched to be at what the average whistler... average person whistling can do.
Would you guys call yourselves average whistlers?
So if you want to try along with the stream, so I'm going to turn. In fact, I'll keep everything on.
Ryan frickin' James in the house. How are you doing?
I'll
Good
play.
to see you.
I'll play this whistle. So if you try whistling along at home,
was that doubled? Was it?
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll go through all the bits in a second. It's really easy. Yeah. And you'll find if you try it at home that you'll be able to... Saying that, you struggled with a whistle.
Because I just can't whistle just in general.
Yeah. So I'll show you the original sound of the whistle. So the actual whistle was done by me because Emma struggled. Emma was in the studio doing whistles, and... You
have like a brisk whistle. It's like
I have a very strong
natural
whistle.
like whistle. You can just do it.
I
could not do it.
So let's have a look. So this is the raw whistle. So this is what happened in the studio. Now, when you sing into a microphone, when you're whistling, if you sing directly into the mic like that, you'll put all the air of your mouth into the microphone, so you'll hear all the air. So when you're whistling, you want to do it across the microphone, so the air from the vocal doesn't go in.
Yeah.
So this is the raw whistle. We call it raw when it has no processing on. So I've turned, if you look on the screen, you see all these things that are blue, and I'm turning them off and on. I don't know if you can actually see that.
We can't see the mouse.
Can you make it see?
I'm pretty certain you can.
Oh, I know how to do it.
He knows how to do it. He knows how to do it.
Show cursor.
Said James Plester about everything.
Right, now you should be able to see my mouse. There we go.
Eclipse, Lisa, what's going on, you guys? Thanks for tuning in.
So all of these here, these kind of, that are in blue, they're my plugins, which are like effects, effectively, that we add on. And when they're in blue, that means they're turned off, and when they're grey, that means they're turned on. So if I play the whistle on its own,
just loop it. Yeah.
So that's the raw whistle recorded by me.
No processing, nothing on it.
So I'll talk you through it. So first thing we do is we cut out all the bass end and we add some high frequency. So this is it. Gets rid of all the air of my vocal out that's remaining. And then without going too complicated, we compress it. So what compression does, it takes all the quiet things in the sound and it brings them up nice and loud. So if I turn that on, now it's making it sound more like an instrument. So, okay, and then we run a distortion, which just gives it a bit of grit. Okay, so the next thing we do is we have this plugin we use quite a lot called Alter Boy, and this allows us to pitch shift things, but like really weird. So what I'm doing is I'm changing the formant of the whistle, sort of like pitch shifting but slightly different, but just mixing it in slightly. So you hear it's lower, and it almost sounds like there's two whistles now.
Kind of harmony.
Kind of like a harmony.
Kind of.
And then we EQ again. And then we run, a few other plugins. This is like a widener. So if you're listening on a set of headphones right now, you'll hear it go like that. This is nice and mono, and this is now wider. And what it does is it takes a signal and it delays it, pans one left and one right, but just slightly, a few milliseconds to the side. So now when you listen on your headphones, you hear one side first, and so in your headphones it sounds wider. Now there are problems sometimes doing that, which we won't go into, but I have plugins that let me do it properly. So
I'm guessing these guys will be hearing this in stereo.
They should be hearing it in stereo.
Yeah.
You should be getting it as a
Hopefully.
stereo feed. It's going to be a ringtone, yeah. So then we run a bit crusher, and what this does is, if you can hear, it adds like a really high digital, high frequency like fizz.
Yeah, it's a fizzy.
If I take it off, and then put it back on. So
it's like a saturation, like.
Yeah, the thing about the why I put the bit crush on is the whistle is like, I treat it like a lead synth line, because it's a thing that you want people listening to and remembering.
It's too clean, isn't it?
It's too clean,
yeah.
and it needs to sound. It needs to, it's got to compete against cymbals and drums and bass guitar and everything else. So you're adding things in the range. A whistle would never make that high frequency a tone, because you just can't make that out of your mouth.
Apart from James, he can probably do it.
Yeah. But the bit crush allows me to create it basically generates things that aren't there out of the frequencies that were made. So it lets you make that.
And I guess it kind of lends itself more to kind of what an analog sound would be. Not exactly, but it just is. You just don't want a clean.
Yeah.
You don't want a clean whistle.
You don't want a clean whistle. And then we compress it again, because obviously all the processing we've done is mismatched the volume. So that's nice and right for the forefront. When you listen to that, it's in your face now. And then we put a little bit of effects. So we've got a little delay. And then we have a little reverb on it. And now when you listen to it in context of everything, it will make a lot more sense.
Ideal place. I kinda love it when you get so mad.
Night Rider, what's going on? Ryan, that whistle is now going to be my ringtone.
I love it.
That's
I'll
awesome.
bounce out just that for you.
Oh my god, if you guys want that.
Yeah, if you want it, we can do that.
Yes. I'll post it in the Discord.
Yeah. So what we tried to do here, you can hear, like I was talking, bass, middle, treble, and left, right, center, and so the whole track comes in and goes wide again. So when we go, it goes really big, full range, and then back to center with just vocal, and then wide again, back to center. And then, as we said, if you want a big impact like a chorus, you need to take everything else out. So we pull every other instrument out, so that when that chorus comes in with everything, it sounds really big again. Everything stops. Let's have a look, shall we? What we got? So should we go through? Do you want to just
should definitely play through the altar boy vocals
Oh,
and the
yeah,
chorus.
I'll do that in a second.
What's going on, Jeremy? How you doing?
Let's just listen to drums. So you can see, if you can see the screen, I don't know how clear it is for you, but I mix in sections. So this is all my drums as one section, and then that goes into what's called a drum bus, which is all my drums combined as to one. So if we now play this chorus.
Is that like two snares?
Yeah, so
every other snare.
Every other snare, I put this sample in, which is like a really like reggae
like
ringy.
It's like a piccolo snare.
Yeah, and
hey,
then
Trick what's going on? Hi.
And you also there's like a fill on that one, so it's basically a snare, but it's got a huge amount of delay and verb on it, so it just has that proper like reggae ring. Because you were like, I really want the reggae vibe.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Gotta have that reggae
we
vibe.
can do that. So if we listen to the drums again, you'll hear it come in now.
Yeah.
And the kick drum is so little. It's so solid. Duh. You know. And then we have the little fill.
Yeah.
And then second half of the chorus. So this is the thing when you're doing pop music, is you've just had to hit really hard into the chorus, and then you need to hit again because you need it to lift up one more time. And so
for the second part of the chorus.
Second part of the chorus. So what we do with drums is we'll like add extra hi-hat patterns that are faster. So you can hear after that fill, we add this one.
It's like every so often it's like.
This is the hi-hat pattern.
Yeah.
And that only comes in after the second half of the chorus. So in the first half of the chorus, we have this hi-hat pattern, which is very basic.
The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn, no I'll never learn. La 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 la.
Demeves, what's going on? We're just talking through a track that we made last year. I hope you're doing well.
What else we got? Let's have a look through the chorus then. So we obviously have the guitar, which you can hear, which is very obvious. We have a synth in the chorus.
Completely.
And you probably wouldn't know that this is in there.
Even forgot about that.
Yeah. And so like we talk about how we make it bigger as we play through these chords. The second half of the chorus, which is where you sing the vocal again, it goes up the octave. Here we're going up. So it's constant lift to make the track bigger next time. What else do we have? We have this here. So this is our thing from the intro, which is bring it back in, put it with the guitar. Second half of the chorus, this goes up the octave again. I love that sound, it's so cool. And then we have our synth samples, which you guys have heard already. And then we also have this, so with a lot of the tracks we try to put...
reverse cymbals, so you can say?
No, this is like a rhythmic... I'll play it. So like some kind of rhythmic single note drone that makes you like... It keeps it driving.
Something like the root of the key of the song. Right?
Yeah, I think I go up the octave again. Yeah, it's a bit of a filter, yeah. So if I play it with the track now, you'll hear it.
I'll never learn, no I'll never learn. La 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 songs. The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll love.
The sound from the intro, it was a sample from Splice, I think.
Yeah.
That came from, and then
Pretty
it's
sure it was Splice.
heavily edited though. As I played earlier, this is so I actually repitched the sample. I use a piece of software called Melodyne DNA, and that lets me just retune any note within it. But this was the original. You can hear all the bass end that wasn't there, so I stick it all back in.
I'll never learn, no I'll never learn. From la 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 songs. The way we love is kinda.
Cool.
What's going on? James Hart in the house.
James Hart is here. Right, you want to hear the vocal?
You never realised it was that. I know, right? It's just like it's really cool for like us to sit here and listen back to what we put in as well, because when you listen to
song. Yeah,
totally. And when you listen through everything that built up the track to what it is, it's just like oh god damn, we put that in. It's like
we just really like the thing that really clicked for us with this song was that dissonance between that and the guitar. Yeah, that sample,
Totally.
which, like you say, sounds like a trap song. I think it was from the trap sample pack actually.
possibly.
Creepy
it was either
Carousel
that or
music.
like a hip hop.
Yeah, it might have been hip hop.
It could have been a hip hop.
I just really like it.
Creepy carousel intro, yeah, totally. Really liked it.
It's so creepy. I love it.
You can imagine, like, I don't know, being home alone and hearing that music and seeing like a ghost girl or something like that. I feel like it's one of them.
So this is, I'll do the vocal next, which is obviously the really important part.
Yeah.
So what we try to do with vocal is make it sound really wide. And actually, you're going to be really surprised at the harmonies in this track. I'm going to solo some of them, Emma's going to cringe, but it doesn't matter because it's not about the individual ones, it's about how they are in total.
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn.
That's just a dry vocal, but what we do is we actually have doubles of everything. So first thing we have, so this is the mono vocal, which is the lead vocal. So when Emma goes in the studio and does the vocals, we have what's called the attitude take, which is where the most important thing is about getting the lyrics and the kind of the vibe across.
Yeah, and also and the vibe of this track is like it's got a lot of attitude in terms of what the song's about, but getting across the attitude and also the enunciation and stuff.
You don't want it to sound even though you write the lyrics one way.
You don't want to be shouting into the mic, or you don't want to be overdoing it. So it's about getting a balanced measure of attitude, but also not losing control on it.
Yeah, you want to know the vocal chain? I'll show you. So it's actually really simple. The vocal chain. So this is the dry vocal.
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
First thing we do is we de-ess the vocal. So de-esser takes out the S's on the vocal. So you can see on the way this plugin works, every time there's a yellow stripe as it plays, that's an S, and it just and then I know exactly where the S's are on Emma's vocal because I've done them so many times.
I have a lot of
you have a lot of sibilants.
I have a lot of certain frequencies in my voice.
Yeah.
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
You can see it working
The
on
way
those
we
bits.
love is kind of twisted.
Then I'm actually using some Slate plugins, if anyone's familiar with them.
Stephen Slate,
Stephen
that
Slate.
charismatic so-and-so.
This is just a very basic EQ and compressor.
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn from la 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 la.
So this one is it's by, I don't know even how you say the name, EIOSIS, and it's called
Eosis?
E2 de-esser. I've got lots of de-essers, and this is probably my favourite that I've always used, especially on Emma's vocal. It's very easy to just find the problem and fix it. And then this next one is part of the Slate bundle. So if you look down the side, these are all the different plugins you can have as I'm scrolling, and you just literally drag and drop it in and add it. It's that simple, and you can just chain them all up and move them around.
I've used these plugins for a while now, and we see Slate, especially not just this, but drum sounds as well.
The Slate Digital F Distressor is very, very good. I highly recommend any of the Slate things. I think for the money, they are very, very good what you get. Then we have a vocal EQ. You can see I'm EQing out some of the ES problems with Emma, but this EQ here is called Pro Q3, and what it allows me to do is do in the live world we call it active EQ. I don't know what you call it in the studio, but the EQs only work when that frequency is made over a threshold. So what you don't want to do is if Emma's making an S and it's at a certain frequency on that S, but then she says F, and that's a different frequency. I don't want to I don't want to EQ out the wrong one too much,
and you don't want to end up giving me a lisp.
Yeah. So the way this works is you can see it moving as the vocal plays. Not that. You can actually see them working. So it's only working when Emma makes it. Then we use the C4 compressor, which is a Waves plugin. So this is a multi-band compressor.
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
This just helps me tame it just generally across the space. And then I use a CLA it's in like an LA2A copy. It's just the Waves version. And this is what's the best way to call it? This is an up gain compressor. So once you set the volume, it will constantly bring the volume up to a certain thing. When you have something that you want to just stick in a place and not move, like a vocal, where you need it to always be forefront, this is...
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn.
There's kind of no dynamic, but there's supposed to be.
I'll never learn, no, I'll never learn from la 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 la.
Yeah, so that's the lead vocal. And then if we go down to this, which is our BVs, when I add these, if anyone is listening in stereo...
I'll never learn, learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
And so the main vocal is what we call the attitude vocal, which is the lead vocal, which sits center mono. And then we make these BVs. And for me, these BVs are not about attitude. These are about Emma trying to sing it as perfectly in time.
It's perfectly in line with the lead vocal, in time, like perfectly in time, and with just as much attitude, the same inflections in the same places, but with a different harmony.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 la.
And they're actually two separate takes. So if you're listening in stereo, you'll be able to hear that there are two different versions of Emma singing that. And they're different to the center. The most important thing about trying to get something really wide in a mix, like a vocal, is that you don't just copy and paste it and then move it slightly out of time, because it causes what's called phasing problems, which means when your song gets played on a mono source, so a single speaker source, like some TVs, some phones, they get cancelled out. Yeah. So when you're recording those vocals, if you want them wide, you have to do a technique like this because it won't work otherwise.
It's about getting the vocals as tight as possible. Like even if like a certain word or like syllable is prolonged by a little bit, and you kind of overhear that harmony and it kind of tips over the edge and you hear it sounds a little bit too sloppy, so we try and get the harmonies as tight as possible.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of harmonies.
We've got a lot of harmonies, so I'm going to embarrass Emma a little bit here. I'm going to
That's
play the
fine.
harmonies. So these are the harmonies.
Guess
So
I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
then we have another one here.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
Same again. These are all stereo, so we record them both twice.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
And then the last one is actually like a shouty vocal.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
And so they sound really weird on their own, but when you play them all together,
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kind of twisted.
and then we put our lead vocal in.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kind of twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kind of twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits.
Yeah.
I am officially bringing out a new a cappella group this year, and it's just going to be me.
We should just release the acapellas.
And then James will be whistling.
Yeah.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kind of twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la la la.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's what happens when we add them all together. I'm just going to put that back to...
We have some kind of call and response vocals
Guess I'll
in the
never
chorus as
learn.
well.
No, I'll
that
never
are,
learn
alter
from
voice.
la 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 la.
Like twisted.
Oh, yeah.
and
We
things
have,
like that.
yeah. So these are just like a modern production technique. So we'll take a piece of vocal like Emma would already say, and then we'll use some plugins like this, which will pitch it and change it and distort it. So when we have our lead vocal, just more like you say, the call and response.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs.
And these are all over the place.
The way we love is kind of twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess
We stick it back in.
Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn from la 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 love songs. The way we love is kind of twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn.
Can we have a look at the bass in this chorus? Because we've got
Yeah.
two going on, haven't we?
Yeah.
With the
let's have a
synths and
look.
the...
So we have...
Who's that bass, didn't we? Fender.
we did, yeah. So we have a bass guitar, which is like very clicky, like bass guitar sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a sub, which is a synth.
Kind of glides. Nice.
And that's just, I mean, the sub
That's
is
what
really...
makes the track move, isn't it? With that bass gliding.
The sub bass is really just for, like I say in the chorus, so it's full frequency. So if I stick the two basses together. Cool. And then we have some other
funky little synths and stuff. Just to kind of that to me was like when I heard that sample for the first time. I don't know what it was about that, but hearing that sample with the drums, like it kind of gelled in place that kind of influence of No Doubt that I wanted. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what it was about it, but I was just like,
yeah, it's very catchy, and that we really like the whistle that much that we put it in twice. So it's in the pre-chorus and it's in post-chorus. So by 1 minute 10, you've heard it 4 times.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of time to hear that whistle. Let's have a look. What else we got?
Misfits,
What else we got?
messed up actions, and you don't understand
But listen.
me. I
That piano part
don't hear
or synth part.
It's an organ. I'll be honest. I tried to just find a really
It's like kind of
basic
like
organ
a
sound.
it's like a creepy accordion.
Yeah.
Creepy organ. Again, carnival, very carnival-ish.
Yeah, very carnival. The drum samples are mainly. I mainly use a website called I Want That Sound for my drum samples, or I make them myself. So I Want That Sound is a great, and they're very cheap for the money. Like they're very good quality samples for the price they charge for them, and they have a huge range of just loads of sample packs. But it is very much, you got to just work your way through it. So if you use something
totally.
like Battery, so the mix session which we're in now, everything's bounced to audio, as you can see. So I don't have any of my MIDI. So my previous session, which is when we're like writing it, it's all be MIDI. So I can change anything I want, and then once we go right, that's it. I bounce it all to audio when we go to the mix stage, which is where we are now.
Yep. What's going on, Adam's family? Alex in the house as well. What's going on? It's gonna be stuck in your head tonight. Amazing. I think that's a good thing.
The second chorus where the whistle comes in actually has Emma oohing over it. Which isn't there on the first one. We also have a lot of ad-libs, which is going to embarrass you, Emma, but it's just like
do it.
Like hays and yeahs and
I've never learned.
I play it with the chorus, you'll.
I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn.
Just with the lead vocal.
Love songs. The way we love is
Yeah.
kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits. Guess I'll never learn. No, I'll never learn.
Monotone, yes.
Love songs. The way we love is kinda twisted. I guess we'll always be the misfits.
All right, let's move on to the.
And I guess
I
that
guess we'll always be the misfits, yeah.
those drums kind of they drop out to a slightly different beat, less intense, not 4 in the floor when you hear that whistle again, so it kind of brings you down out of the chorus. And at the end of the chorus, that I guess the oohs aren't there, but just the whistle on its own.
Let's do the mid-late then, shall we?
Be the misfits, yeah. This is not a love song.
That's very true, Rebecca. Yes. You guys are really good at that.
What's that?
Huh?
What are they good
They're
at?
really good at embarrassing me.
Oh, yeah. So this sound, which is called Dong, is a sound that I've used in every track of Emma's. Everything's cherry on top.
Which uses the dong.
I'm always get the dong out. So if you go back through Emma's songs, I don't think there's any song, or maybe on the album, some of them, but all the singles, at least, not the on the album.
I think Second Chances was probably the first song you used.
I used it on Cherry on Top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's in the middle eight, Cherry on Top. This sound, you'll recognise across everything.
Isn't it just a sound from Expand or something?
Yeah,
like
so this
really
is like really basic sound.
But it's like your signature little bell sound.
I feel the dong. Yeah. So go through Emma's songs and look for the dong. It's in there. Every song, it's there. It's in Love You to Death. It's in the new song that's coming out soon. I can't say when.
No.
It's in. Maybe we could do a sneak peek. We'll see how we go. What?
Maybe.
Maybe.
This is not a love song.
Let's have a look at what's going on. So this is actually using some splice sounds. So this is all splice drums.
Filtered again.
Yeah, so that's it originally. You hear all the bass end. I just don't want that in this middle eight.
Yeah.
And then we have some more splice samples here, which is a snare, and then I've pitched it as well. You'll hear it go up in tune. It's like very EDM, very dance.
Yeah.
What else we got? We got another drum sample, which is the one we use in the post-chorus. So put them all together. When we start bringing in, reminds me of the I can't remember what it's called.
Reminds you of what?
I can't remember. I'm trying to think. And then we come back into the chorus. Oh no. I just clicked the wrong button. So what we got? We got some synths here. Quote that, please. Yeah. This is that sample from earlier, but just slowly filtered in volume. We have little slices of the guitar on the second half. We have the dong, of course. We've been through the dong. Okay, let's talk on vocals. So we have got...
yes, James mix and masters everything as well. Yeah.
So we have the lead vocal.
This is not a love song. We don't get the words wrong.
But what we wanted was a whisper on this originally for the lead vocal, so you can hear on its own.
This is not a love song. We don't get the words wrong. This is not a love song.
Now you can hear the g on the song are actually out of time, but I kept them in. Yeah, so that when you put it with the lead vocal,
this is not a love song.
The whispers are like 50% louder than the lead vocal. The whispers are actually louder than the lead vocal, but you need the lead vocal there, otherwise it's very hard to understand. ASMR whispers, you know it.
Yeah, man.
This is not a love song. We don't get the words wrong.
So there's some really crazy stuff going on as well. And the end of these whispers. So with these plugins that I have on Pro Tools, I can do automation. So for anyone who doesn't know what that means, is I can. I'll show you. So I have things called automation lanes, which lets me take a piece of the sample. Anything, any knob or effect or anything you can see on this plugin, I can control it real time in the track and make it do something. So if I put this on, you can see these little lines right here that I've drawn, and so you can hear what happens to the vocal. Okay. So it's a reverb. And I'm changing the decay time of the reverb. If I hold it up, you can see it happening just here. You see them moving by themselves, some of the knobs. And so that's just for a transition effect when we go from this to the next.
We probably got some white noise filtered into some of the sections, maybe.
I don't know if I put white noise in this. Oh no, there it is. Yeah. We have.
I was going to say, like, that's something that we just always do. I'd be surprised if we didn't do.
Yeah. So white noise, which most people I'm guessing are familiar with. If I turn it off, that's some white noise, and this is what we do. You can see it moving as it goes in and goes up. If I put it in with the song, now when the chorus hits, you'll be able to see it happening. This is another little sample.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
It's just another sample that we retuned to fit. Looks like I have another one here. I don't know what this is. Oh, it's just like a little
Some
bit of
reverse.
vocal.
Sorry, I don't hear much when you keep yelling at me like, I kinda love you when you get so mad.
Do you want to do another song?
You're kinda funny when you yell like that.
Do you want to do another song?
No, I'll never learn from la 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 la
We do love you to death.
Yeah, I'll let it
The
up.
way we love is kinda twisted.
So what we're going to do, you guys, is I think that's most things in Misfits, isn't it?
Unless anyone wants to hear anything specific. I think my favourite part is that vocal harmony.
Which one?
Just the vocals on their own and the
Oh,
chorus.
yeah.
Just, I'm a huge fan of them.
That's fair.
They come out really well.
I still love that sample with the guitar just on its own. It's just like
Oh, the sample and the guitar and the.
just this.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. Sounds really cool. So what we're going to do, you guys, is it would be cool if we open up "Love You to Death," seeing as that's the latest single I've released like last November. So we'll talk you through what we did with that one as well. Do start the show. I don't think we have those sessions from.
I don't know if I have started
10
show.
years ago?
I have Cherry on Top,
The phone tree. What's going on?
But-
How are you doing?
not the full finished thing.
Just a listener, it gives me insight into how many layers go into a song that you can't distinctly hear. That's cool. I'm glad you've been enjoying this. This is really fun. Def Metal Dingo, welcome. What's going on? If you guys are just tuning in, we've just been talking through a kind of in-depth discussion about the production on a track of mine from last year. And we're just about to jump into another track, which is my latest track called Love You to Death. We're going to talk you through the production, how James produced it, and what we did with the vocal processing and all these different lovely little gems.
I just need to copy some bits over.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, this is the beauty of self-releasing. Is we can show you all this stuff with a lot of tracks. You don't get to hear all of this because it's all it's all copyrighted away. But I mean, part of what we do is we run the label ourselves, and that allows us to do sessions like this where you can actually
Yeah.
go through and listen to every little bit in the track.
James isn't great at keeping secrets, is he? I take it some yes, but no, others no. What secrets haven't you been keeping?
I don't know.
The harmony techniques are really cool. Thank you, Justin. It's really interesting. Good. Pro Tools looks fun. I use Logic, but I wish I had the Mini for Pro Tools. Yeah, like we haven't used Logic before.
I'm not Mac at all. I'm completely
No.
PC. So
You're all Windows.
I'm always been Windows, and I've used Pro Tools for. I don't know how old it is now, but I've used Pro Tools since version. It was 5 or 6, so we're now on. Well, they just name it by the year now. So I've been using Pro Tools for like 15 years. So when I first bought Pro Tools, it was really cheap because Avid used to make their money from the hardware. So you couldn't open Pro Tools unless you owned their sound card. But now it's completely different. You can run any sound card in Pro Tools, but they put the price of Pro Tools up.
They did do a thing a while ago, and I don't know if they do it anymore or have it available, but it was like Pro Tools first. So it was like just your very basics for recording.
And it's free.
And it's free, like totally
And-
free.
and
And,
if we-
and whether they still do it or not, I'm not sure. But if you Google Pro Tools first, it might still be a thing that they do.
I think they've changed it to £5 a month as well now.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
do want to get full Pro Tools, if you want full Pro Tools, it's like £80 a month. But normal
Yeah.
Pro Tools is coming right down in price.
Yeah.
There's a lot more competition in the market now than when I first started.
I mean, you almost moved to Studio One very recently, didn't you?
Yeah, well, Pro Tools crashes all the time, but so does everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything crashes all the time. I'll put the dong in the chorus as well. Oh yeah. There's a dong. No, I've just copied some files with 2 members. Oh, there we
Solo
go.
that dong.
Okay, so let's open the next session. This might take me a moment.
Drink.
Oh, yes, please.
Max.
Yes, please. All my files and naming structures are terrible, so we never know what the songs are or where they are. because I don't label them properly.
James like names sessions like not what they're called. So.
Ableton crashes quite a bit. Yeah, it does. I've used Ableton so I've built some projects for brands, for live things, and I use Ableton for that because of the MIDI. So I did a thing for Monster Energy recently, last year, where I made a synthesizer, 3 of them, that all sync together via MIDI time control. And basically the idea is Monster pay to put it in a festival. People are drunk at the festival, they come along, they press a button and it sounds cool. So whatever they press, it all works. And I used Ableton for that because it's so good for live MIDI production. But I don't use it in the studio because...
I use Ableton for my broadcasts.
Yeah?
Yeah. And we use
do.
Ableton live when we do shows as well, if we're with the full band. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look. Let's check it's working.
Like name changes? Pro Tools crash on you with name changes as well?
Name changes? I don't think I've had that issue before. Okay, this sounds like we're working. So this again is mix pre-master. So it looks like I have got some MIDI in here.
Wicked.
But it hasn't got the mastering. So for anyone that doesn't know the difference, the mix is getting things balanced in terms of what you would expect mixing to be. Mixing all the sounds together, making sure from a frequency point of view everything's all hitting, nothing's clashing, and all those kind of things. And
making sure there's dynamics.
Dynamics across the track. And then the mastering is the point at which it's not as important as it used to be, but it still is very important. But when you think back in the old radio days where you would have your track versus someone else's track, and you both, two indie artists putting their tracks out, what you want is your track to sound louder than theirs. But, everything has a ceiling for volume. Once you can't go past that volume. So the idea of mastering is that you take your track and you squeeze it and make it as audibly loud as possible, so it sounds louder than someone else's.
Loudness perception.
Yeah. This led to a really bad problem in the mid to late 90s called the mastering, the loudness wars, which is where everybody would, this is a thing, if you go and Google it, everybody tried to make their track louder than everyone else's, and what happens is when you do squeeze your track even more, it's distorted. There's some songs I can think off the top of my head that I would consider mastering has been done on purpose to be over the top. Burned by Ellie Goulding. You listen to the chorus and the vocal, and it sounds distorted. It sounds like the whole thing's distorted. When you listen to the track, is a track that has been over mastered in terms of.
But maybe do you think on purpose?
Yeah, sometimes it's that's what it comes down to. But the whole point of mastering is about getting your track as loud as possible and making sure it's a few things. So it's making sure the format is correct for where it's going to. Mm-hmm. So where's the release going? Is it just going on Spotify? Then you have to send it at a specific bit rate to the distributor. Is it film mastering? So it needs to be at specific volumes. A lot of things have set volumes at which you're allowed to master to. So that's what the mastering process is. So this is pre-master. Now the master is what I would say so mastering's been around since the 60s, and everybody's so used to it, but they don't know what it is they're hearing. So when you hear like your local band and you hear their track and it sounds like a demo, that's the difference between it sounding like a demo and sounding like a finished product is the mastering stage. It just makes things polish is the word I'd say.
Oh, Death Metal Dingo. Naming things for names. I've quite the story for that, for my final project for my animation class. By the way, I love that you do animation. That's incredible. I named the file. I haven't slept in days. Help me, because I was having such a hard time. I forgot to change the file name back to what it was supposed to be, and my professor sent out a class-wide email telling students to make sure to check the file name before submitting. Brilliant. When I've done bounces of different when I'm bouncing a video out and I'm just really frustrated because I don't know, my laptop isn't playing game with me or whatever, I'll do the same. I'll just be like, not again, as the file game. Or not again, 16. And it's I know, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Animation, that's awesome. So let me know what kind of software you use. Are you using I don't know. Let me know what you're using.
Chorus and burn doesn't need to be distorted. Yeah, and I would say that 99.9% of people listening wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where if you know, it's like any profession, you know, when you hear it day in, day out, you know, you can tell. You can tell what's happened. There was a big thing with Metallica where the fans got angry because it was mastered badly for radio.
What song?
It was an album.
Oh.
Magnetic something, I think. If you look up the loudness wars, there was loads of things on it, but that's something that happened with that song, that whole album, and it was re-released with it mastered differently, and people compared the difference, and you can see. But so people kind of people who know what it is kind of have a bad feeling about mastering, but it is the thing that's the one, Def Magnetic,
Def Magnetic.
Yeah. So when the original release, I think, was overmastered, and it pissed a lot of people off because it's a detriment because you spend all this time in the studio getting it sounding perfect, and then it's not even a bad master; it's a master that's too harsh.
Right.
But the reason they're doing it is a record label go, well, we want it to be louder than the competitors when it goes on the radio. In the current day, it's not so much of an issue because things like Spotify, digital software has loudness perception indicators. So it will look at your track, it will look at someone else's, and it will just pre-match it. There is still a bit of a thing about it being actually happening.
Rush's Vapor Trails as well. Neil Peart.
Yeah. There's a lot of songs. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
There's a lot of songs that it happened to, but
I used Adobe Animate during school, but I no longer have the subscription. Now all I do is draw in Photoshop. That's really cool. I kind of do the same. I also I use After Effects, so like all the lyric videos and stuff and the animations the special effects, really amateur special effects in my music videos are all done by me. So it's really cool to hear that you're doing animation. It's like a personal hobby of mine to do animated stuff, and that's really cool. I love that. Keep it up.
I'll change that.
Yeah, so we're gonna change to Love You to Death now and talk you guys through this track. For those of you guys that might have just stepped in, we're kind of doing a deep dive into the production of some tracks of mine. We've just done Misfits. So I guess if you missed that, you can rewatch the broadcast. But the next one we're looking at is Love You to Death, that I released in November. And originally we weren't going to release this. We were going to save it, I think. But just as we were working on the track, I think I just fell for it a little bit, and I was just like, no, I want to release it. I want to release it. Yeah. After Effects hated me. It would always crash on me. Really? Oh, it's crashed on me loads of times as well. Hence the file names, right?
So this is the guitar at the beginning. Now, actually, this is there is some processing that's happened at some points. So
this was just my Taylor GS
This is
Mini?
your Taylor GS Mini, yeah, just next door, mic'd up. We did it twice and then panned them left and right, so it has a wide field. That's it dry. If you hear there's a tiny bit of distortion, see, some people, when you hear the word distortion, you think it's going to be bad, but distortion can be really good if done correctly. What we call digital distortion is horrible, nasty sounding, just
when you hear that.
Yeah, that's digital distortion because digital works as on or off. But analog distortion is what's called saturation, and saturation has different levels of distortion.
It kind of warms the track up a bit.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And so with this, on the preamp, which is, I'm trying not to get too technical here. When we put the microphone up and we record it in, I actually use an analog preamp and I distorted this on the way in. So it was analog distortion to the guitars before they come in. So if you listen to this on its own,
what was it called? The one we went round to Darren's studio for.
No, so that's on the mastering. So this is pre that.
Pre that, right?
This is all pre that.
Okay.
So yeah, so we used a distortion on the whole track in the mastering, which I can open after we've done this, the master. So you can hear this dry though. You hear a little bit of distortion in the bottom end. Mm-hmm. So then we just put my usual processing. And there's your nice guitar. And with that we have some vocal. We're actually using a plugin here called Vocal Synth by
by
Isotope.
yeah.
and it's very good. This is one that we use of theirs, which is, if I take it off, you can hear.
Essentially, the Beatles' Revolution straight to desk.
Yeah, straight to desk, yeah. Digital gives you so many more options because with digital you can go back and change anything. So I started in the analog world. When I first started, it was all analog and just transitioning to digital. So when I first started, it was still tape. And so when we did an edit, we had to splice the tape and move it along. When I first started in audio, and then digital came along.
You're showing our age.
I know, yeah. And then digital came along. Digital was there at that time, but it was very expensive. And people didn't like digital because back in the early days of digital, the sample rates were so low that people used to say, "Oh, it sounds digital." And the reason it sounds digital is, analog anything, whether that's film or audio, or so listening on vinyl or listening or watching on something that's recorded on film is true analog, which means it captures everything.
Yeah.
Whereas when you do digital, it captures within this restraint to this restraint at a specific bit rate. So it's never it's not a true analog signal. It can't be because it captures that. But then when you get to high sample rates, so if you use something like Ableton or Pro Tools and you record at 96k or above, you're talking to the sample rates that the average ear will never hear that difference. And so that's why you can get something that sounds. So we actually have some true analog things in the studio. We have analog preamps. We have a synthesizer over here. That's
like a Korg.
So that's a Yamaha CS15.
And there's no MIDI in or anything.
No,
so you play it live and that's what you record and that's it.
Yeah, I think it was made in the
basically.
80s.
There's no playing a MIDI and then changing it in Pro Tools. That's not it.
But you can create some really cool things out of that because it is true analog. But the problem with something that's true analog is some days it just doesn't work. Because I
think that's true for that synth anyway.
Well, it's the nature of analog.
It's a little bit of a dinosaur.
Yeah.
A beautiful dinosaur.
So here's our vocal on its own, and then we add all our effects to it. I actually run my sessions, so I record all the vocals at 192k, and then we mix at 96. But we write the songs at 44.1 or 48, because at 44.1, 48 it uses very little CPU. So the PC I have here is extremely powerful and can handle really high bit rates. You'll probably find if you use Ableton and you try and run 96k, 192, your computer will just not be able to do it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But by recording, it's the same thing. If you buy a 4K camera and you film at 4K, and then the advantage of film at 4K is you can chop in, and if let's say your output is always going to be 1080p, you can chop down. You can always go down to 1080p, or you can do what we call super sampling, where you keep it at 1080p but you use the 4K signal. The digital algorithms that make, I'm trying not to go too technical here, digital algorithms when they do compression formats,
It's interesting though. People find this stuff interesting.
Well, we'll find out.
No, they do.
Digital, when you do compression algorithms, they can only work with the data they're given. So if you record something at 1080p and you bounce it at 1080p to put it on YouTube, the signal's only ever going to be 1080p. But if you recorded it at 4K and then you bounce it down to 1080p, it will always look better if you recorded it at 4K and bounced it to 1080 than if you filmed it at 1080, because there was originally more information. More information was there at the start, so when you do bounce it down to something, so with audio, a lot of people listen to it as an MP3 format.
Yeah, so when you guys are listening or streaming on Spotify, unless you have a subscription on Tidal and you're getting all the WAVs and stuff, everything that we're streaming on Spotify these days, and what you essentially hear on the radio. I mean, radio is a different story because a lot of stations compress the fudge out of everything, but on Spotify it's your basic MP3 and it chops off the top and the bottom to a certain extent, and you're kind of left with less data, so you're not hearing what it truly should sound like.
To give you an example, if you are running Ableton at 44.1 or 48, if you see this EQ here and you can see how high it goes up to, most digital audio at 44.1 only goes to 20,000 hertz, which is this line right here. And some people would know that 20,000 is the highest point in the human hearing range. Most people, you can hear up to 18k, and as you get older, that starts to drop down. So, Emma. So
My hearing's not so great.
For example, let's do it on the master so you can see how it works. So when you're a baby, you hear a track. Let's go to a chorus.
We could talk slow.
So let's go from like...
When you're a baby and you're jamming out to my track.
When you're a baby, you can hear the whole thing.
Yeah.
And as you get older, what happens is you lose this. Not that harsh, but you lose a little bit of your top end of your hearing. And as you get older, it goes more like that. So when you talk to your grandparents and they say stop mumbling, it's not that you're mumbling, it's because they can only hear this. Because they're older. So they think you're mumbling,
It's
but you're
all
not.
uphill from here, you guys.
Yeah, it's all uphill from here. So the older you get, you lose it. And also, by being exposed to loud music, what happens is you don't go deaf, you go deficient.
Yes.
So you'll have like drops like this at certain frequencies, like that, for example. And everybody's ears are totally different based on their surroundings or what they've been and how they've grown up.
Yeah.
This is a bit more getting into a complicated area here, so let's move back.
Thank you for the follow. Agabemnon, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. On the Spotify Windows desktop app, you can listen at high quality. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
So I think that Spotify uses a format called AAC, which is developed by Apple, which is something very good that Apple's made, which is a high quality, low compression format. So everybody used MP3 and everybody's heard of MP3, and the reason is because MP3 was designed in the 80s and it was designed for vocal files. It was designed originally for vocal files, and the reason everything uses MP3 is because it was designed in the 80s, so everything can read it. Every computer knows what it is, but it's not ideal for music. Because MP3 has a chop at the top of the signal and a chop at the bottom of the signal because it was designed for vocal. Vocals don't have loads of bass and they don't have loads of high frequency, so they chop that down. So when you listen to an MP3, even at a high quality 320 kilobit, which is the highest you can go, it's still not ideal for music. AAC is full frequency 20 hertz to 20,000. Anyway, I was talking about compression and why we... so 20,000 hertz... My 16k drop, yeah, there you go. 20,000 is the highest in hearing range, and you might be wondering, well, why are you recording at 96k and recording up to 40,000? Or when we do vocals, I do up to 80,000. And the reason for that is that if you're using analog equipment, you have what's called harmonics in music and frequencies, and so you can manipulate other things lower down the signal with higher frequency manipulation. So even though I'm affecting things that you can't hear, which are 20,000 and up, it's actually affecting things lower in the chain. It's a huge topic that I'm not going to go into now.
I need to wear my glasses. Am I squinting a lot? Probably.
Maybe one day I'll twitch and I can explain it all for somebody.
My hearing is probably the worst from all the heavy metal I listen to. Same. I think I'm slightly deficient in certain frequencies as well, and that's probably because when I was a kid or when I was a teenager, I just sat there with headphones on the whole time and probably cranked it up a little bit too loud.
The problem with headphones is they're deceiving on how loud they are.
Yeah.
And so it's all depending on how loud the volume is and also how long you're in that volume. So you might go to a live music venue and it sound terrible, but the engineer thinks it sounds great, and the reason for that is that he's heard that frequency so many times that he's gone deficient in it in his ear, so he adds more of it to make up for what he can't hear, and then the audience are screaming because it's hurting them so much. But for the engineer it sounds fine, or for the people who are in the venue all the time. Aren't you going to filter that out? No, so I work all the way up, full range, and I'll let whatever algorithm do the frequencies changes. You'll see some of the things we actually put in, I think in this track, we generate things up in the 18k range. Right, anyway, back to the song.
Should we listen to the
let's
song?
listen to the song. Do you want to listen through the whole thing? Or do you want to
we can listen to maybe a verse and a chorus.
Yeah.
Can we go somewhere we could talk slow? Don't know why I'm scared.
Everything goes to a mix of mono. Yeah, mastering for vinyl is a totally different ball
We
game.
had to do it once when we.
I've done it before.
We
Yeah.
released when we released the album a couple of years ago. For the Kickstarter pledges, we wanted to have a vinyl of some sort, and we could just about afford to do one that was just a single, like the single of the title track. And so you had to like master that differently because it was going onto vinyl.
Yeah, mastering for vinyl, and the reason it's done like that, the reason why the mastering is done differently is because when the needle moves, I don't know the exact intricacies of it, but when the needle moves, because bass frequencies are bigger waveforms, so when they actually cut the grooves, if the waveforms are too big, the needle can jump, and so. I think the reason it's when you master for vinyl, you have to do things totally differently. I did it for that. I can't remember exactly what I did. It was quite a while ago. Right.
One of my favourite things about this track is halfway through the first verse is when the 808 kind of comes in.
Yeah.
Just as a kind of like new addition. It kind of like, I don't know, it sets like a new kind of vibe for it. It's like really cool. I love
That.
it. Yeah.
So this song is based on like kind of a few drones.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this drone here, which goes,
And it's a sample that's been kind of chopped up and kind of copied and pasted. So it's like running the same sample over and over again every single bar.
and there's another one here.
Similar thing, but
And
different.
Oh, that's the dong.
That's the dong. The dong's made a comeback.
The dong's always in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Is it this one? That's nice. Trying to remember. I thought I had 3 of them, but obviously it's the guitar, and then we've got these 2 kind of drone samples.
The guitar, I think we tried like full chords, and there was just way more clarity in just playing like plucked notes, like keeping it super simple, and it just, I don't know, it lended itself to the kind of nice soft ballad sound.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's not much going on with that guitar apart from the low end distortion that's very subtle. It's just like when it hits, especially when you change chords. So now when it goes lower.
Oh, it's lovely. It's really nice.
And just a huge verb, and it's just this plugin called Little Plate.
Yeah.
So I time all my effects to the BPM of the song. So we'll look at the BPM of the song, which is 150 BPM.
Naked Lunch Lady, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it, and also I love your name. I love your name.
We'll look at the BPM of the song, and then I'll use a calculator that times the reverb time to the BPM of the song. So every time, like something like a guitar or a snare, the reverb happens. By the time the reverb is finished, the next piece comes in. You hear that more on like a snare. So let's have a listen to the drums in this. Yeah, you can hear the reverb ends just before the next one comes in. So you don't get like a muddy like.
It's like a synthetic piccolo snare-y type.
Let's put some drums in. What we got here? Let's have a look what we had for our chorus.
It's nice.
Yeah, this
It's quite simple, like drums wise, isn't it?
Yeah, this
really?
one's very simple.
Yeah.
And the drums don't come until halfway through the chorus. And what I really like in this song is the bass sound.
It's like a rolling.
And the bass is, for anyone who's musical, it's just before the beat every time. So the change. So if you imagine that's the just before the beat. And it just helps, when you've got a chorus with so little in it, it really helps drive it to the next section when you put it with a guitar. love that bass. It's so cool.
You're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous, how much you make me feel alive, and yeah.
Something everyone always asks me about this song is this sound. Because we basically treat that as a snare in when the chorus hits.
Have we laid that with the natural snare? We haven't.
It comes in halfway through.
Like I've always said, you're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous, how much you make me feel alive, and yeah.
Should we listen to some harmonies?
Yeah, like I was gonna say with the chorus, because of the kind of like the concept, because of the concept of the song, and because the verse kind of starts off quite soft. The vocals are very kind of falsetto, and like very softly kind of delivered, and so because of that, we're going into the chorus. We wanted to kind of isolate it a little bit and really make a meal of the vocals in the very first portion of the chorus. So that's why you hear at the very start of the chorus that I love you to death. So it's like it kind of really I guess spotlights the melody. That's like one of the hooks of the song.
It's very breathy as well.
Very breathy, very like very close to the mic, like high gain, and like almost not whispered, but just like very falsetto and like soft and yeah.
One of the things you need high quality equipment for is when you're capturing like a very quiet vocal and you gain it up very high. So when the vocal is really quiet, you need to turn your gain up to capture that in. And cheaper equipment has what's called a ground hum, which is the back end buzz. So cheaper preamps, cheaper equipment. That's the downside to that. If you have a loud singer or you're doing something that's very loud pop, when you're doing something like this where it's so intricate, the problem when you pick that background noise up is when we put that through all our processing, mixing, mastering, when you get to the final end, you're going to have like a big buzz over your song.
We use a Neumann TLM 103. Actually, it's the same mic I use on my broadcast. So the microphone you guys see when I'm singing here on Twitch, it's the same vocal mic we use for when we record a track. Another example of doing something that's like recording something that's so quiet and gaining it up afterwards. James did the Foley for our friend James, who should be up in the chat. His name's 1 Month Movies on Twitch. You should follow him, by the way. He released a movie last year called Static. It's an animation, actually. So if you're studying animation, you should check it out. And it's a story of a balloon, and for like an animated balloon, and we had to basically go in and record all the James Hart was in the vocal booth, like doing all the squeakiness of the balloon noises and stuff, and that's something I guess you had to gain it up for.
Yeah, footsteps and things like that. It's what you need. So let's have a listen to the vocals all together.
You're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous, how much you make me feel alive, and yet
I'll put them solo them.
I love you
So
to
um,
dangerous, how much you make me feel alive, and yet I love you to death. I do die, extra life, dangerous, how much you make me feel alive. I do die, extra life, dangerous, how much you make me feel alive, and yet I love you to death. Yeah, I love you to death.
here's an example of distortion. These backing vocals.
No, I'm not scared of the unknown.
Altar Boy again as well.
But I'll never know. No, I don't care where we both go.
You know, it's a very like shouty vocal anyway.
No, I'm not scared of the unknown. But I'll never know. No, I don't care where we both go. Yeah, as long as you know. As long as you know. I love you to death.
Loki obsessed with Simon Says. Amazing.
Some dirty guitars.
Dirty guitars. I think this middle eight was like inspired by. When I was a teenager, I was hugely inspired by the Veronicas, who are like a female duo, like pop rock kind of outfit, and their choruses were always really like chanty and like just really driven like vocally. So like in the middle eight, I knew I wanted a kind of really chanty, almost shouty vocal, loads of attitude, and then those guitars are like
super dirty.
Awesome. They're really cool.
Yeah, when they kick in.
On the offbeat as well. Or like a beat like.
Yeah, if you hear it with the drums, stick it in with
They have a drum fill as well. So good. What do we use on the guitar?
so look, I think I just really distorted them.
No, that's good.
So let's have a listen to them clean. If I have them clean. So they were just recorded in with an analog SansAmp unit. Which is like really fuzzy, and then they just have been processed into.
I just remembered the DJ scratch samples.
Oh yeah, you really wanted them in.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we came across this sample, and I can't remember what the full sample sounded like, but I sat there and like we chopped it up, and it started to sound a little bit like, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Linkin Park when you were younger, but like they have had obviously a DJ out live with them and like a lot of like scratches in their stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, so like that kind of influence is in there as well.
You actually get it right at the beginning of the song. It's this here.
Yeah. Wicked. So it's just like little tiny subtle, but really really effective. I love that.
I'm scared of letting you know. It's not so simple, but it hits me like a comet.
It's so straight, those drums. Build up, stop. Back in. Same as all the other songs. Yeah.
That guitar's so simple. And the different chords. Like that, I don't know, I can't remember that sample where it's like, it's really nice as well. I don't know if we use that as a reverse thing somewhere as well. Yeah, it's really nice.
A little bit. And the dong, of course.
Of course. Of course.
See, I try to do what we call a counter melody on the dong every time. The dong always
Say
plays.
dong again. Dong.
Dong always plays in the chorus.
You speaking of it as if it's a person.
Dong.
Dong always plays in the chorus.
Dong always plays in the chorus. Maybe synth there.
This is your cue, Dong.
So my goal with the dong every time is to make it work with the vocal.
Extra life, dangerous how much you make me feel alive. And yeah,
So it plays in all the gaps where the vocal stops.
extra life, dangerous how much you make me feel alive. And yeah, I love you to death. Get into my nerves and let go.
We added that guitar in the second verse, didn't we? That wasn't in the first verse, I don't think. And it's like inverted chord, like an
Yeah, it's
inverted
an inverted
chord.
chord. It's a little bit.
Like a lower chord than. Played a little bit lower. It's really nice.
And also, if you listen to the talking about how we take something and make it bigger the second time, if you listen to the way Emma plays it here, she holds it, and then and hold. Whereas the second time it comes in, it goes it's not being held again. So when you listen from this section, held.
Lets the vocals breathe and
then
doesn't take up that space.
Comes up now.
Because the drums are kind of like brought in there as well, I guess. We've got like a altar boy vocal under the verse as well. That like high synth as well, filling out like the top end.
Oh, that's actually something we added right at the end, which is this one here, which is actually something with MIDI.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know what MIDI is, it's basically data, and most people would know MIDI via something like this.
Captain MIDI.
We call it the piano roll, and it lets me draw the MIDI in. So if I wanted to add new notes, I can just add them in. They'll sound terrible, but when I'm running MIDI, I'm running a
Draw a unicorn.
This is a digital synth. So, when I say digital synth, it's digitally is a virtual synth, not like an analog synth. So, it uses the computer's processing while it runs it. So a lot of the time, what I do is I bounce this to audio, so it's not having to run real time. Looks like I didn't when we did this.
No. Well, it's like literally one note.
Yeah.
It's not taking up too
But you
much.
can hear like what it's making is a lot of real high frequency fuzz. So this the way this plugin here works. Down here is all the low frequency, and up here is all the high frequency, and you can see it all happening real time. You can see this one is all there's some held big notes there. Is that one? You can see them in there, and then up here is like the fuzz, the high frequency. In fact, if I do 1 second,
Boogie.
if I do this,
Baby.
you can hear it as I move around. You can hear what's actually going on in that. So what we're really interested in is this high frequency up here. So when that chorus hits, there's something. If I take it out, huge difference.
Yeah.
So it's so subtle.
Just gonna say hi.
You're right, Pookie. She loves just chilling out in the studio. She's all about it.
Roxy gets a writing credit every time. She's a puggle. She's a little pug. She's a little pug. How does the songwriting start? Do you come up with the lyrics and build the beat around them, or do you have the beat already? It varies. It changes from song to song. Usually with me, typically, I start out with lyrics, and I usually sit with an acoustic guitar first, and then the beat comes later. I can't really think of a recent song where we've sat down and we have like a beat that we've written to. It usually starts off with a chord progression and a melody. Sometimes the melody comes before the lyrics, and then I find the lyrics that I want and then fit them into a melody. But more often than not, it's the lyrics that come first, and some chords, and then we kind of build around that. And like going back to what we said earlier, like as a kind of general rule, if I sit there with an acoustic guitar and sing the chorus, if it's not catchy, if it doesn't play out well on acoustic and vocal. To me, it's not good enough. So like, if that melody that I've written one day isn't in my head the next day, or the concept of the song isn't sticking, or it's just not memorable, then I usually go back and rewrite it. But yeah, lyrics and chord progression usually comes first.
Tickle that pug.
Tickle that pug.
I've got the master here if you want to hear the difference. So, it's maybe difficult, but I think it was this one.
Oh.
So you can just see the waveform difference. No, that's something I've got on screen. You can see the waveform difference between the mix and the master. You see how much louder it is by how much bigger it is. So even if we just listen to a section.
Okay, 1 second.
And now we listen to the master.
You're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous how much you make me feel alive. And yeah,
I try to ignore the volume difference. If I give it a bit of volume, what you're listening for is more the tone than the volume difference.
you're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous how much
I'm going to put it on the master again.
like a boy said. You're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous how much you make me feel alive.
So that sounds a lot better, yeah. And because a lot of people are used to mastering, they don't realise, but subconsciously they've been hearing it for years and years.
Sometimes when we open old sessions, I'm like, I don't remember it sounding like this.
And then you put the master on. The
And
master
you
is
put
a
the track on.
huge difference. But the trick with mastering is, you see these kind of peaks. Here, I'm going to squish that. You see these peaks. And the goal is, if you make the peak and just cut it too much, it will sound distorted. The goal with mastering is to take these peaks of volume. A peak is like imagine this is the volume, the maximum volume you can ever go to is this. I don't know if you can see my hand. And so every time like a kick drum happens, it hits the peak, and it can distort. And so the idea of mastering is you want to keep those peaks, but you want to bring everything else up to it. But when you start pushing the volume, what will happen is your peaks will go past that point, and instead of the way a speaker works is it moves like this. When it plays the music, it follows a waveform, which is what you're playing, and it slowly moves nice and smoothly like that. So if you suddenly chop the top or the bottom of the waveform off, your speaker will now go like that. It won't move gently, it will go like that, and that's what creates a distortion sound. And so when you do the master, the goal is to slowly take these peaks and round them off, bring everything else up, round them off, and just keep doing that until you get to the point where you can play it. It's that much louder.
Like a boy said, you're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous how much you make me feel alive.
You hear with the master, all these little background things come out
Yeah.
that aren't there on the mix.
Like a boy said, you're my ride or die, extra life, dangerous how much you make me feel alive. And yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to think what else there is to show in this song in terms of anything in the middle eight that we've
Let's have a
not
look.
covered. I think that's pretty much it, right? What are you opening?
I'm opening that session back up. Why? What do you want me to open?
What?
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 Not allowed.
We're not allowed to?
You can give them a little taste.
Yeah?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, why not?
Yeah?
Little bit.
A little bit.
Little bit.
Have you even played it on your stream before? You played it live on acoustic?
If I did, then it would have been a long time ago.
Alright, who wants to hear a little sneak peek of the new single that's unreleased?
Little tiny
Little
sneak.
tiny
Little teeny
peek.
teeny. It's not mixed. It's not mastered yet.
There's still some vocals missing, but
Yeah.
yes.
Which bit are you gonna? Which part of the?
The catchiest bit, it's got to be.
Okay. Okay.
So we wrote this when did we write this? Last
Not
year.
this that's playing.
No,
now.
not this. No. We wrote this last year, and it went into. We have like a load of songs that I like
Shelved.
shelved songs. Yeah. Shelved songs. You'll be able to hear the whole thing shortly. I can't say when the release date is, but we have. Let's just say there's a lot of new music coming this year.
Roxy's been sampled in it. We used a Roxy sample in this
Did we?
one. Yeah.
For what?
It's like a layered on top of a snare
Oh
sound or
yeah, we
something.
did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Roxy's in it.
Just for the longest time, we've wanted to like sample Roxy doing a beautiful little puggy grunt or something, just so we could put her in the track subliminally.
Right, I'm opening this up so you can't see the name of the song. Although you probably saw it when I loaded it, but.
You're just gonna sit there and look at me, aren't you? This is what she does. This is all Roxy does. When we come in here to write, this is what happens.
Oh.
This is where she lives, like just on me, the whole time.
I'm just going to change the camera a moment while this is
Sorry,
loading.
yes.
So,
Yes. Yeah. Yes. What are you been up to? What's going on? What's happening? Hey, James.
yeah.
If you look in that drawer, there might be a puggy something.
Oh, a little something
a little
for the
something
puggy.
something for the pug. Just a little something something.
Have a look, shall we?
Yeah, take a look.
Oh, what are these?
Ah. What's that? What's that? Steady that. Ooh, she's like, wait, what? She's like, what?
Okay, you want a little sneak peek? A little sneaky peek.
Sneaky peeky. Son, did
Sneaky
you give her
peek.
any?
No,
give her,
I've got 'em
give her
here.
a
Oh.
treat.
Whoa, calm down. 1 second.
Whoa, calm down.
1 second. Let's go back to
Stay. Stay there. Stay and sit. Good
this.
girl.
Come on, this. There we go. That pug knows there's more.
She's like, give me that. Chew.
Last one. All gone. Calm down now, puggy.
There you go. Good girl. You deserve that
Oh.
for all the work you've been doing.
Which bit?
It's pretty weird for you to play it. Right, are you going to get down then?
What?
Not you.
Okay, well, would you want a chorus? What were you thinking? You'll be humming it all
I
day.
don't know. I don't know. What
So,
about?
as you can see, this is a session we're still working on. So there's lots of MIDI because it's not been mixed yet. So lots of sounds.
It's not there. Not there yet.
But
Wait. Let me think.
do you want the second chorus?
Yeah. Go
Or
on
the post middle eight chorus?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to play that? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Chorus is a chorus.
You're my kind of crazy, and I like you like that. You're my kind of crazy, and I like you like that. I see myself in nobody else, but you just reflect right back. You're my kind of crazy, and I like you like that.
Yeah.
And I like you like that.
Okay,
That's enough.
That's enough. Yeah, that's all I can
That's
play.
enough.
It's so dancey.
That's what we're working on. Do
You
you
w-
work a lot with MIDI and then record the analog parts to replace them?
Yeah.
Usually.
So I have a few MIDI instruments in the studio. I have some MIDI outboard.
We got like a contact.
contact keyboard over here.
What's it called again?
This I can't remember. Complete Control.
Complete Control.
Just it's really good because it
As
lets you
in-
control all the contact things. I have a machine, which is also by Native Instruments. I think Native Instruments are great.
We also have a C-board, which was a gift.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
C-board which we use sometimes.
Oh,
We have one of the things that I use a lot in terms of plugins, which some people will be like, "What is this?" So you can see. So this is what happens when I want to load a plugin. I go to here, and these are all my plugins. So these are my EQ plugins, my dynamics, my pitch shift. Lots of people will look at this and be like, "There are so many,"
What?
and there are absolutely loads, and most of them are do different things. Loads of different things going on. But my instruments are like my virtual instruments. So a lot of what we like to use are like recreations of analog synthesizers. So I'll have things like my Jupiter here, and I can,
I unplugged that because I moved it across
I know you did.
my laptop. It sounds beautiful.
And then these things come with presets, so it's easy if you've never used something before. But then you have some of mine. So these are like some of my ones that I use for my production. Some of my bass ones. And everything on here can be controlled, so I can change my filters, make it last for longer.
As you gave us a preview, you can get one more guess.
So
Is it something to do with my birthday? As in a specific kind of birthday? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm terrible. I'm the person on Christmas Day who tries to guess what the presents are. I don't know what they are. No idea what they are.
There's a lot going on in this song. There's a lot of MIDI.
There's a lot, but
I feel like I can play individual instruments, no problem. Right? And I always try and hide like a really, really basic sounding synthesizer somewhere in the song. So this one. Oh, and the dong is in there.
Thank you for the follow, the Tamas. Thank you. Really interesting. I can't remember the name of the guy that we watched on YouTube.
There's the dong.
But he was talking through.
Blink-182.
He was talking through Blink-182, all the small things, and it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
In that it's like woo, it's like jumps up the octave. It's like doo 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 in the chorus, and you wouldn't even know it's there unless you sat there and listened to it. And it's just like what's that note? Get the name of that guy on YouTube. He's a producer from Nashville, I think.
Yeah,
isn't he?
it's really interesting.
Really interesting.
Yeah, the dong's always in. I can't.
Does Emma not want to know the guest? Keeps missing my messages. I just guess. The dong is back. Yeah, the dong is back.
Dong.
The dong makes an appearance. Of course. Of course. Deep dive with the dong.
Deep dive with the dong.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough.
Sorry. Getting a bit carried away.
But I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of deep dive. It was really fun to talk through Misfits and Love You to Death. We didn't expect to do 2 today, so I hope you enjoyed having a little listen to how we kind of do things. We've not really done this before, so in terms of like talk through everything. So it's been fun to kind of revisit the sessions ourselves and like, I don't know about you, but like just remind myself of little trinkets.
Yeah,
that we sprinkled in there.
Interesting listening back.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that you forget you do.
Yeah.
A lot of late night sessions. So many little things.
And we have one ahead of us tonight as well.
Yeah, because that new song's got to be finished, so.
Yeah, man.
Have you ever done a studio tour?
I haven't done a studio tour. No.
Add that to the list.
We'll have to add that to the list and maybe do that next week if we get a chance.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to do. Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you all. And I'll be live again, back to our usual broadcasts tomorrow with some live music if you want to swing by at 8 p.m. UK time. I'll see you guys over there, and I hope you've enjoyed this little session. This has been fun. I'll see you guys shortly. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.